Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at the ASUSTOR LockerStor 2 Generation 2. This is possibly the fastest 2-bay NAS you can possibly buy, but it's got more than 2 bays. Confused? You won't be. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we'll be taking a look at the ASUSTOR AS6702T, otherwise known as the LockerStor 2 Generation 2. Now what they've done is taken the original LockerStor 2, which was absolutely amazing, which you can check out in the review up here or in the video description below, and they've improved it. They've actually improved it dramatically. So this is effectively around about 30% faster in terms of processing power with the new Jasper Lake Celeron N5105 processor, which has a base speed of 2 GHz quad cores and boosts up to 2.9 GHz. Also, RAM in this has actually been upgraded, so we've still got 4 GB of RAM as standard, which is awesome, but now we've got DDR4 2933 mega transfers, which is also available in up to 32 GB. Now that is what is actually supported by that Jasper Lake processor. ASUSTOR themselves actually only say up to 16 GB over the 2 slots which are actually on the motherboard itself. But yeah, you can do various upgrades, so it comes with 4 installed. You could always put in another 4, another 8, etc, etc. That is entirely up to you. Also on the previous model we had 2 M.2 slots which were PCI Express Gen 2. They've increased that as well, so we've got double on both sides, so we've now got PCI Express Generation 3, so that's double the throughput. And also, rather than having 2 M.2 slots, we've now got a total of 4. So this effectively, as it comes out of the box, is a 6-bay NAS, although you can't combine all of the drives into one storage pool. Sadly, that isn't an option, and obviously that kind of makes sense because your slower SATA drives are basically going to hold back your M.2 drives. So you can set up 2 storage pools on here, one super fast and one for kind of long-term storage, that sort of thing. So this isn't just a NAS for basically your kind of boring backups and all that kind of stuff. This can actually be a PC in its own right. And in order to do that, it has got a HDMI port on the back, which supports HDMI 2.0, so 4K 60. So if you want to run a Plex server from this and actually have the output from the HDMI port, you certainly can do. Or you can just basically run it as a Linux PC. You can install a virtual machine on this using the hardware directly, and basically you've got yourself another computer. So you've got yourself a NAS, you've also got yourself a computer, and also a media center, all in one convenient package. Now obviously all that power is absolutely awesome, but unless you've actually got the bandwidth available to you to actually make use of it, it's kind of pointless. This is where ASUSTOR have done another fantastic thing. So we've now got 2 2.5 Gigabit Ethernet ports on there. So you can actually use SMB multi-channel and combine those. So theoretically up to 5 gigabits per second, which is pretty insane. So realistically, in the best possible conditions, using M.2 drives and SMB multitasking or multi-channeling, you could potentially get anything up to in the region of 600 megabytes read and somewhere in the region of about 500 megabytes per second write, which is kind of mad if you think about it for such a small box. Anyway, that's enough of an intro, and that was quite a long one. In this video, there's actually going to be 3 parts to this. So we're going to do the first part, which is today's video, which is going to be the unboxing, hardware, and taking a look at what you actually get and basic overlook of what you can do with it. The second video is going to be more concentrated on the software side of it, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to install the ASUSTOR Control Center, show you how all that works, go through some of the applications, all that kind of good stuff. And then the third video is going to be a reflection, so I'm going to take into account your comments on both the videos and also my experiences as well, and we'll try and wrap that up into one cohesive overall final review. So that's going to take into account obviously hardware, software, ease of use and my experiences. So if you want to see how all of those go, don't forget to stay subscribed and click the chime button and you'll be notified of future video releases. Right, that's that out of the way. So let's get on and take a look at this thing and do an unboxing. So obviously you've gone through most of the specs. On the side of the box you've got the full specifications listed there, so if you want to check that you can do. I'll also put some links to ASUSTOR's website so you can check this out for yourselves. But I think probably the best thing to do is to get inside and take a look at what we've actually got. Now I do realise that unboxings are kind of majorly boring, but there's going to be some of you out there who are thinking, I'm going to pull the trigger on this, what do I actually need to buy or what do I actually have included? So let's go through what is included. Now obviously you get the NAS itself, that is going to be one of the main inclusions, but actually in the accessories box you get your usual stuff. So you get a quick start guide, You also get a 65 watt power adapter, which plugs in with a traditional kettle style lead. Obviously, depending where you're buying this from, you'll get a lead appropriate for your region. So you do also get the power cable as well. And there's other things as well. So you've got a power cable fixing unit. So you can put that into the back. So that prevents you accidentally unplugging the power to the NAS device, which is obviously a good thing. You also get two sets of screws. So one for 2.5-inch drives and one for 3.5-inch drives. And also you get two decent Ethernet cables. So now we can take a look at the NAS itself. So as you can see, it is actually relatively compact considering how much power and what is going on here. Really good construction, the drive bays themselves. So if I take the first drive bay out, you see I've actually got a drive now, which I've been using for testing purposes. We've currently been using Seagate IronWolf drives, but you can use pretty much whatever you want to. You don't have to put a NAS drive in these things if you don't want to. You only use NAS drives if kind of you're looking for data security and all that kind of good stuff, and potentially lower noise. These do spin at a slightly lower RPM, around about 5,900. You can, if you want to, put 7,200 RPM drives in here and just have it as literally just a PC. Run it as a PC should you wish to. The choice is yours. But the drive caddies themselves, metal construction, plastic side runners, very well constructed indeed, and they just pop in on the rails, lock it in. There's also a locking mechanism at the bottom, so you can twist that so to prevent any unauthorized removal. And there is the tray, as you can see, with no drive in it at all. So we've got options bottom for 2.5-inch drives or using the side mounts for 3.5-inch drives. Would have been nice if they were toolless, but I guess it's going to be one of those things that you're not going to be doing on an extremely regular basis, so it isn't the end of the world. Looking at the front panel, so we've got our power button here, also with the LED. These are also diagnostic LEDs, so depending on what the LED is actually doing, you can work out what's going on in terms of status, etc. You've also, underneath that, you've got a hard drive activity LED, which is, you're going to want to see that moving, otherwise things are not good. Underneath that, you've got activity lights for both of your LAN channels, so LAN 1 and LAN 2. At the bottom there, there's another LED, so that is for the front-mounted USB 3.2 Generation 2. So all of the USB 3 ports on this device are USB 3.2 Gen 2, so up to 10 gigabit per second transfers. Also, that button does actually double up, so there is actually a button there, so you can press that if you've got an external device plugged in, say USB stick or external hard disk drive, that kind of thing. You can press that button and automatically configure it to transfer all of the data from the device onto the NAS. So you can predefine folders, so you can have a shared or public folder. So maybe if you're video editing and there's a team of people all video editing, you can take your SD card, put it into an adapter, press the button, and it will transfer to maybe a public or shared folder. Again, we'll take a look at more of that when we do the software review in part 2. Also in the front, you'll notice there is a very, very tiny thing there. That is your IR blaster receiver. So ASUSTOR actually do a remote control, which you can get from this, and obviously you could probably use all-in-ones as well. So if you're actually using this as a HDMI output device, basically like a computer or PC, you don't have to have a keyboard and mouse attached necessarily. You could just use a generic remote control as long as it's programmed in appropriately. The actual box itself, plenty of ventilation in the top and also on the sides. And there's a little bit on the bottom as well, not a great deal, but it's all finished nicely in metal, so it's a very solid construction there. On the back, this is the cool part on the back, so we've got obviously the fan itself. The fan, don't worry, nice and quiet, and also there's 4 speed adjustments actually in the operating system, so you can basically have it silent, on, off or low, all those kinds of things. You've also got the 2 Ethernet ports. Now you see they're color-coded red, so this signifies these are 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, so again, if you've got a suitable hub, then or switch, then you can get the best speeds out there. But don't worry, if you only have a gigabit hub, then you can just basically use them as gigabits, not a problem there at all. Then we've got our second USB 3.2 Gen 2 port there, again 10 gigabit per second, which is pretty awesome. It really is for USB transfers, blazingly fast, or potentially can be depending obviously on the drive you're plugging into it. Underneath that, we've got our HDMI 2.0B. HDMI specs always baffle me, but essentially 4K 60Hz, no problems at all. And also you can do other specs as well, so if you want to plug this into maybe an old TV, 720p, no problems at all, you can do it. An old interlaced TV maybe, there's also options in the operating system, so you can choose whichever works best for your particular TV, and also things like overscan if you've got a really old TV. Good thing about this, completely flexible, and also it's got an auto detect as well. So even if, for instance with me here, if I want to show people, I can plug this into my CamLink software from Elgato, and it automatically recognises it and says, right, 4K, 60 Hz, thank you very much, just gets on with it, which is awesome. Underneath that, there is a small reset button, so if things go a little bit pear-shaped, which hopefully they won't do, then you can actually press that in. This is actually really handy. If for some reason you lose connectivity with the device, maybe it loses the network, or maybe you've changed your setup, IP address has been taken, all those kinds of things, you can press that, just press it in once until it bleeps twice, and it will just reset the connectivity. It will leave all your data, won't change anything like that at all, but it will reset all of the Ethernet ports, IP addresses, etc., etc. So you can find it again in the ASUSTOR command center or control center, and then go ahead and do any setup you need to. Underneath that, we've got our power jack, which can be actually fixed as well, so stop the cable coming out accidentally. And next to that, there is a Kensington lock slot, should you wish to use it. Taking the side off, you can actually get access to the internals, so not a great deal on here, but again, if you want to do any kind of routine maintenance, vacuuming, all that kind of stuff, getting dust out, you certainly can do, and potentially change out the fan if you want to, and get access to that nice and easily. It is a PWM fan, so you could, if you want to, reach out to someone like Noctua and just replace it for a much quieter model, should you need to. Realistically, it's pretty quiet, so I wouldn't bother, but yeah, some people do like that silence, so you can do that if you wish to. On the other side, pretty boring here, not a great deal going on, but there is a flap, which took me a while to find actually, and that is your additional flap for installing more memory. So you can just put in here regular SODIMMs, DDR4 ones. It does support up to DDR4 2933 megatransfers or megahertz, whichever way you want to look at it. So there's a 4 gig stick already on, which is actually a lot more difficult to get to. That is kind of right deep inside here. It's not the sort of thing you can do on a regular basis, but if you want to take it all apart, you can gain access to it. So if you wanted to populate this with 32 gigs or 16 gigs of RAM, you would need to take this apart quite drastically to get to the extra 4. I think 8 gigs of RAM, even 4 gigs is really nippy, so you probably won't need to do it, but if you want to, you certainly can. Where it starts to get very cool indeed is this top section. So this is where the M.2 drives go. So again, this is now PCI Express Gen 3. Gen 2 is a little bit slower. Again, depending on what you're doing on this, you're not going to get those blazing speeds that you would on a desktop PC. So obviously the network is going to be your kind of limiting factor to some extent. But for PCI Express Gen 3 times 2 is going to be absolutely fine. And depending on what you want to do, there's various things you can do. So you can use the M.2 drive as just a cache. So any regularly accessed files will be cached to the M.2 drive, making your NAS a lot more snappy. So if you've got multiple users all accessing similar files, then you can cache them here to the faster drives. Or alternatively, you can actually use it as a storage pool. Or if you want to, you can use it as both. So you can have maybe one drive as a cache, and maybe another 3 drives as storage. Maybe if you want to, you can have one drive as cache, another drive as storage, then have another 2 drives mirrored. It's really flexible, so you can do basically pretty much whatever you want to in regard to the M.2s. It's a real shame that you can't really put it all as one big jumbo bunch of disks in some sort of RAID format. If you do want to use it just as a JBOD, then all 6 drives will appear. You can basically do whatever you want to them, make them as one big concurrent drive. Probably not recommended because obviously M.2 drives, the read writes, they do wear after time, unlike conventional hard disk drives. So yeah, there's lots and lots of options and tons of flexibility. So basically it's working out what works best for you. So there we go, there is a look at the internals on the AS6702T. Now I should mention at this point as well, this isn't the only model which has been upgraded to the Gen 2. So as part of the LockerStor range, there's also LockerStor 4 and also there's a 6. So there's basically a 4-bay model and a 6-bay. So that is in terms of the actual physical hard drive. So maybe if you do want to use RAID 5, whereas this is going to be limited to RAID 0, RAID 1 in terms of the hard drives, then if you do want that RAID 5, then you can get the 4-bay version of this, the LockerStor 4 Gen 2. Possibly worth doing. Again, your needs may be different. Something which I didn't mention, you can actually buy extension bays for this as well. So actually, ASUSTOR do extension bays, so you can get a 4-bay unit which plugs in on that USB. And again, because we've now got USB 3.2 Gen 2, 10 gigabit per second transfer speed, so the link between the main unit and also any additional units is going to be that much faster. And you can, if you want to, you can plug 2 of those in. One's going to have to be plugged in at the front, one's going to have to be plugged in at the back, so it's going to look a little bit weird on the front, but certainly if you want to, this has actually got the power to enable you to have a 10-bay setup, which is pretty impressive considering how small it is. Anyway, with all that said, let's get this thing fired up and we'll have a very quick look at the software interface and you can see what it looks like. Okay, so this is the ASUSTOR Control Center, or ACC. download it very easily. All links will be in the video description should you wish to, but there's also a QR code you can scan on the box. When you've got it installed, this is basically some of the quick actions you can do. So you can scan, for your NAS, so you can find it actually on your network. Again, you can see the details there. You can click on the ASUSTOR Open, which basically opens the web browser to connect, etc. You've got options here for connecting network drives, mapping drives, create a remote file folder, and connect via FTP. You've also got options for the ADM update, so that is the ASUSTOR disk management software. You can update from there to make sure it's all up to date. You've got options for going straight into various things, so Photo Gallery 3 you can go straight into, your surveillance sensor, looks good or sounds good. So these are the main three really. So Photo Gallery 3 is obviously for your pictures, looks good is for videos, and sounds good is for music. Now if you want to have these apps or mirrors of these apps actually on your mobile phone, be it Google or Apple, then you can get basically the mirror applications for these. So Photo AI, Video AI and Sound AI. Again, I'll put some links in those. You can find them quite easily. If you just go to the Play Store or the Apple App Store, just do a search for ASUSTOR and you'll see all the apps which can be installed. There's an absolute ton of them. So again, quick access to those should you wish to. And the last one there, actions. So you've got Wake on LAN you can set up, Find Me, Night Mode, Sleep, Restart and Shutdown, usual kind of stuff. So let's go in and take a look at the actual operating system. So when you go in for the first time, you get the option, you can set all this however you want to, configure it, what is available on the desktop. And then it takes you to the main screen. So this is your main apps. I've installed some which are not installed as default. You do get the option to run through a wizard, so you can choose which ones. So you've got your usual stuff, so access control. So this is how to configure users, all that kind of stuff. Then you've also got activity monitor, so you can see what the processor is doing and memory, network, drives, etc. See what the loading is like. As you can see, just running this at the moment, CPU is at 4% utilization, memory is at 40%. Network is basically doing nothing, it's just idling, and the drive's obviously idling as well. So yeah, it's not under any stress or duress as standard. App Central is your app store. So you can actually navigate a lot of this just like you would Windows. So you've got the top apps, you've got latest apps, Docker, Portainer, Nextcloud. Yeah, there's tons of different things you can do there. Obviously Plex and all that kind of stuff. VirtualBox extension. So if you want to run a virtual machine, you can do from there. Then you've got ASUSTOR's first party apps. So loads to choose from there. ASUSTOR Live for streaming, ASUSTOR Portal, which is what you install for the Hdmi output on the NAS. Antivirus, ClamAV, free of charge, you can use that. And there's also desktop type apps as well, so like Disney Plus. You've also got, I think there's one for Amazon Music, that sort of thing. Basically, yeah, there's a ton of different things on here you can choose to do. So it isn't just a storage box. You can use it for entertainment as well. My Media for Alexa, you've got Photo Gallery we said about before. You can even run a mail server on here if you want to. Stream's good for streaming. Yeah, Take Easy for downloading multimedia. Take Easy is actually pretty good for YouTubers if you want to download your entire online content. Should YouTube decide to either demonetize you or take away your channel one day, you can actually save all your videos into here, Take Easy, and it'll basically download new content as it becomes available. So that's actually pretty handy if you've got the room to store it. Then you can choose by categories. Yeah, you get the general idea. There's also some beta apps as well. So if there's some new stuff which has come out which is in beta, then if you want to risk it, you certainly can do. You can do updates, etc. So that is the App Central. Settings, obviously your main settings, you can configure HTTP. And also, if you want to, like I said before, you can use the new version of SMB and also multi-link SMB. So you can choose to enable that. Isn't enabled as standard, so you would need to do that. And speaking of which, let's go in now and do a quick test. So I've actually mapped a drive already. So let's go into my computer. And we'll go into our V drive. So this is the video. So this is the ASUSTOR video. And all I want to do is just copy a file from my desktop. So this one is just under 3 gigabytes in size. So let's just drag that into our shared drive. This is currently connected with a 2.5 Gigabit Ethernet, just a single port. And you can see there, we did get quite a decent burst there. It did drop down, but it is starting to regain it. So yeah, pretty quick transfers. That's almost 3 gigabytes of data in a very, very short time. Again, obviously that is writing. Read speeds are going to be quicker. But yeah, you get the general idea. It's very easy to use. The ASUSTOR Control Center is very good and makes life a lot easier. a very good way of managing your data and your applications. Okay, so there you go. There was a quick look at the software side of things on our ASUSTOR AS6702T. Now obviously the ADM software is kind of the same pretty much across all of ASUSTOR's NAS range, so if you decide to go for this and then maybe upgrade or maybe add another one, then it's going to be a very natural kind of progression. It's going to feel very similar, which is really good. I've got this unit still running on the desk here at the moment. So this desk is actually a hollow IKEA desk, as some of you may already know. And even with that, there's not really a great deal of noise coming from this, even though we've got a mechanical hard drive in here. We've also got the fan running at the normal speed, so medium. If I lift it up, actually, it does get quieter. So you can tell it's resonating slightly. It's a very slight change in noise profile. But again, it's not intrusive, which is really good because you can actually use this with things like, this really should be in the software part of the video, but I wanted to add it in at the end here. This can actually be used with video systems. So if you're using maybe Adobe Premiere or Adobe Photoshop, that kind of thing, this is actually Adobe certified. They've worked with Adobe. So if you have your synchronized folder, your online cloud folder, you can actually synchronize it with this, and also it works well so you can obviously share information. So if you're doing a multi-collaboration on a certain project, you can all open the project via the NAS and use it in that particular fashion. Again, pretty niche, but it's a very cool thing to be able to have. So not only do we have ridiculously fast data speeds from those 2.5 gig Ethernet ports, we've also got 4 gigs of RAM installed as standard, which you can upgrade very easily should you want to. Potentially 6 drives can be installed into this thing, plus an additional possibly another 8 via the USB storage from ASUSTOR's add-on line. This thing is mad, it really is. Very powerful, and it can be basically what you want it to be. You can have tons of drives in here, you can maybe just have one drive on there and just use it as a centralized storage location. But the thing is, with that new Intel Jasper Lake processor, the world's your oyster, it really is. You can choose to do basically whatever you want with it, which I think is excellent. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap up this introduction to the LockerStor2 Gen2. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, smash the like button. If there's any comments or questions, please, genuinely do put them in the comment section below or reach out to us. Like I said, we will be doing follow-up videos on the more software side of this, how to actually set one up and configure it. We'll do that from scratch. I'll basically erase it and start again so you can see how that's actually done. And also, we'll do a third part as well, which will be a wrap-up. Any potential issues that may be obvious, or even problems that you guys at home may have experienced or want to know how to work around. So we'll try and put that in the third video, but we need your input for that. So please comment in the comment section below. So thanks very much again, as always, to ASUSTOR for sending this out to us for review purposes. We really do appreciate it. And hopefully it's useful for you guys at home if you've got any questions about this particular model or any of the other ASUSTOR products. So that's going to wrap it up. I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.